Hello everyone, and welcome to your complete and ultimate ZHONGLI guide. ZHONGLI will be making his grand return in the 3.0 update alongside Tighnari, so this video is to hopefully aim to guide all future ZHONGLI owners on how to roughly build him. This video will cover all of the following in order: general playstyle, talent overview, weapon options, artifact sets and stats, team comps, Constellation Overview, other miscellaneous info, as well as a Spiral Abyss showcase. All in an as condensed manner as possible for you to comfortably look back on. For a more brief overview of ZHONGLI's kit, please watch the Liyue 5-star character overview we made a few months ago. Lastly, as a disclaimer, some footage in this video will be of my own personal ZHONGLI at Constellation 0, and some will be of another Constellation 0 and Constellation 4 ZHONGLI. Thanks to Yiwen and Hui Yi for letting me use their accounts to record footage with. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the guide. ZHONGLI's first and foremost role is as a shielder, protecting your team from taking damage most of the time. Being the only character that has 100% uptime on his shield, along with an insanely strong scaling on its strength, ZHONGLI will often negate the need for a healer in the party. This opens up your other Abyss team slot, allowing the healer to be there instead, like Jean or Bennett. ZHONGLI's shield isn't just for ignoring damage though, as his shield is also incredibly important for preventing staggers. Characters without super armor, or ones who lose a lot of DPS when dodging, such as Gan Yu, Yoimiya, or Hu Tao, all greatly benefit from not taking knockback when ZHONGLI's shield is active. This is one of the many factors that makes ZHONGLI one of the most comfortable picks in any team comp. Finally, let's discuss ZHONGLI's own damage. With a 900% attack multiplier, along with additional damage scaling of 33% of his HP, ZHONGLI's burst does actually provide non-negligible amounts of damage, and is further bolstered by a low energy cost of only 40. This means that ZHONGLI is perfectly suitable as a sub-DPS role, in addition to his shield support role. However, it must be stated that building ZHONGLI's damage does require significantly more investment, though it is very often worth it as it allows him to contribute more and have less of an opportunity cost when on the field. ZHONGLI's normal attacks look quite flashy and have okay multipliers, though this will likely rarely be used unless you play a physical or meme build like Cryo ZHONGLI. Take note to either jump or dash cancel after N5 before repeating the string. ZHONGLI's elemental skill is the star of his kit, so let's go over it in detail. Tapping this skill will summon a pillar on the field that lasts 30 seconds if it's not destroyed. This can be summoned every 4 seconds. If a pillar is already on the field, a new one will be created while destroying the old one. This pillar pulses every second, dealing geo damage with each tick, scaling off both ZHONGLI's attack as well as a small percentage of his HP. This pillar will also have a 50% chance of generating 1 geo energy particle with each tick. This pillar can also resonate with any other Geo constructs nearby, making synergy with characters like Geo Traveler extremely good, as they can create what is known as the ticking chamber, dealing passive damage and generating energy if enemies are hit by its constant pulses. Let's move on to holding this skill. Holding E grants ZHONGLI a Jade Shield and extends the cooldown of the skill from 4 to 12 seconds. Note that if there are no pillars on the field, a pillar will be created, but if one is already on the field, a new one will not be made, unlike tapping E. ZHONGLI also gains super armor when holding this skill, meaning you won't be interrupted while trying to get your shield. The shield lasts 20 seconds, meaning that unless your shield breaks under 12 seconds, you can have a permanent uptime on your shield. This shield scales off ZHONGLI's max HP, the scaling of which is determined by your talent level. To make things simple to understand, having over 30,000 HP is generally enough for a strong shield with minimal dodging, while 40 to 50,000 HP and above usually means that you can tank nearly everything without a care and still have permanent uptime. This shield also has one of the best passive talents attached to it. While ZHONGLI's shield is active, all nearby enemies will have all types of resistance, elemental and physical, reduced by 20%, which will be indicated by the downwards pointing arrows on said enemies. This usually translates to an average of 15% damage increase to your attacks, give or take. This passive is incredibly strong because there are certain resistance shreds, namely Animo, Geo, and Physical, which are all incredibly rare, and thus ZHONGLI's shield offers the very rare form of universal damage amplification. Do note that while ZHONGLI's shield is incredibly strong, it isn't foolproof. Certain enemies, namely the Rift Hounds and Bathismal Bishops, have certain attacks that bypass shields. Rift Hounds can apply team-wide corrosion, while the Bishops have specific attacks that can deal true damage regardless of a shield. Against these specific enemies, ZHONGLI is generally much less of a favorable pick in the party. Finally, moving on to Zhongli's Elemental Burst. First off, it is unquestionably the coolest looking burst animation in the game, and any other opinions that state otherwise are just wrong. Zhongli's burst does have decent multipliers, a decently short cooldown at 12 seconds, as well as a low energy cost of only 40. It also applies a status known as Petrification, which completely immobilizes enemies for a short duration. At talent level 10 and Constellation 0, Petrification lasts 4 seconds. Note that Petrification does not apply to boss type enemies like the Primo Geovishat or Regisvines. Thanks to its high damage output and Petrification, it is recommended to at least put some level of investment into Zhongli's damage stats for his burst to be more meaningful in a rotation, where it can often be used to fill in downtime when other party members' bursts are not up. However, do note that it can have a casting opportunity cost due to its very long 2-second animation. This burst does have split scaling, with a 900% attack multiplier at talent level 10, along with additional damage scaling of 33% of Zhongli's max HP, regardless of the talent level. This means that if you want his burst to do the most damage as possible, it is more impactful to run an attack sense compared to an HP one. However, as we'll discuss in the artifact section later, I strongly advise against this, due to the heavy impact this will have on Zhongli's shield strength. Moving on to weapon options, Zhongli is a flexible character who can use a multitude of weapons. So let's go down the roster from 5 to 3 stars. Zhongli's best in slot option is the Staff of Homa, which universally boosts both his shield strength as well as his damage output. This increases his max HP by 20% of his base HP at Refinement 1, and also grants him more attack the more HP he has. It offers crit damage as a substat, making it easier to build around. This weapon also skyrockets his DPS output when he's under 50% HP, though this is somewhat impractical in actual gameplay. However, it must be stated that using the Staff of Homa often has diminishing returns on Zhongli, as this weapon is generally more impactful on other DPS characters such as Hu Tao, Raiden Shogun, and even Xiangling. Engulfing Lightning. Engulfing Lightning is his second best 5-star option. This grants Zhongli a ton of energy recharge, allowing him to have near permanent uptime on his burst, and is also synergistic with the Emblem of Severed Fates artifact set. This will still lose to Staff of Homa for overall damage output, but offers better burst uptime. However, it should be stated that Zhongli's burst has a very low cost, so running this weapon along with Emblem might often prove to be overkill on his energy generation. Primordial Jadewing Spear. This weapon has aged quite poorly when compared to the other weapons, but is the only 5-star option on this list to offer crit rate as a substat, making artifact building much easier. Note that its stack building passive does not work off field, and thus does not synergize with Zhongli's pillar. All other 5-star options will work just fine on Zhongli. Calamity Queller will give Zhongli a ton of damage and synergizes with its pillar damage when off field. Skyward Spine is like a massively downgraded version of the Engulfing Lightning, and the Vortex Vanquisher, which is Zhongli's signature weapon, gives him a ton of damage but has a stack building passive and still loses to Staff of Homa for raw damage. Note that the shield strength increase from Vortex Vanquisher only applies to the character wielding the weapon, not the whole party. Moving on to 4-star weapons, we have the Favonius Lance. This weapon has a decently high base attack, grants Zhongli a nice amount of recharge, and generates particles upon crit, giving him more team utility. This is the overall best balance of burst uptime and support weapon, and is my personal favorite generalist option to recommend anyone looking to build Zhongli. The main caveat with this weapon is the need to build crit rate, but ideally, a Zhongli build should have a decent crit ratio to begin with, so this weapon's passive should not be an issue with a well-built Zhongli. Deathmatch. Deathmatch offers a ton of crit rate as a substat, 36% at level 90, and thus makes building Zhongli much easier, but does not really offer much else in terms of utility. Its passive is okay for increasing damage, though I still recommend the Favonius Lance over it, just for pure team utility. Note that this weapon is a paid option from the Battle Pass. The Catch. This weapon gives Zhongli a ton of energy recharge and increases his burst damage and crit rate, making this the best 4-star option for a burst DPS Zhongli. Other wacky 4-star options include the Crescent Pike for those hipster physical Zhongli players, Lithic Spear if the team comp allows you to greatly take advantage of the passive, and Prototype Star Glitter as a copium but last resort craftable option. 3-star options. Finally, the only 3-star option I can recommend is the Black Tassel. This boosts Zhongli's HP by a large amount, thus increasing his shield strength. However, I strongly advise against using this weapon as Zhongli's shield is oftentimes more than strong enough even without it, and other weapons that increase his damage, or team utility especially, start to become more favoured at higher levels. Please only use this weapon if you do not have access to better options such as Favonius Lance or the Catch. So in general, this is my weapon ranking for ZHONGLI. For an all-rounder ZHONGLI, I highly recommend Favonius Lance, followed by everything else in the recommended 5 and 4 star options in order. For a burst or main DPS ZHONGLI, Staff of Homa takes the first place, followed by every 5 star option except Skyward Spine, then followed by either the Catch or Deathmatch for 4 star options. Let's move on to artifacts. First discussing his ideal stats, a general ZHONGLI should have HP on the Sands, Geo damage on the Goblet, and crit on the Circlet. If you wish to improve his shield strength at the sacrifice of some damage, you can also go HP on the Goblet instead. Substat priority is as follows: crit rate or damage for building a good ratio, energy recharge for burst uptime if you are not using an ER weapon, HP percent on the Flower and Feather for shield strength, and attack percent on other pieces. A general HP geo damage crit setup should have ideally over 30,000 HP, along with a decent crit ratio of at least 60 crit rate to over 100 crit damage without a crit weapon, or 150 to over 200 crit damage if you are using a crit weapon. An HP crit setup should roughly maintain the same crit ratio but have around 35 to over 40,000 HP. For those shield bot builders, an HP build should have anywhere from 45 to over 50,000 HP, and no need for substat considerations. Again, I strongly advise against this build. Finally, for those big DPS focused ZHONGLI owners, using an attack sense instead of an HP sense will be an option that's open to you. However, your ZHONGLI will likely never break 25 to 30,000 HP with such a build without sacrificing a lot of other stats, so your shield will be quite weak. Moving on to artifact set recommendations, ZHONGLI is one of the most flexible characters to build, and thus can use a wide variety of artifact sets. 4-piece Tenacity of the Millelith. This set is overall best for a support ZHONGLI. Its passive increases the rest of the team's damage, and synergizes well with ZHONGLI's Pillar, since the 4-piece bonus will proc even when ZHONGLI is off field. The 2-piece bonus also slightly increases ZHONGLI's HP, and thus increases his shield strength and damage. This is my personal favorite recommendation for the average ZHONGLI player. 2-piece Archaic Petra. For DPS focused ZHONGLI players, you will likely rely on this set for damage. The remaining 2-piece can be filled in by various sets, including, but not limited to, Noblesse Oblige for burst damage increase, any attack plus 18%, aka Gladiator's Finale, Shimenawa's Reminiscence, Echoes of an Offering, or Vermilion Hereafter for general damage increase, Emblem of Severed Fates for slight energy recharge for burst uptime, and Tenacity of the Millelith for HP boost. Any of these sets will suffice, so just use the one with the better substats. 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fates. This set increases ZHONGLI's burst damage depending on his energy recharge, as well as helps maintain uptime. This set is only recommended if you are running an energy recharge weapon, notably Engulfing Lightning or the Catch. That covers the main recommended sets, but there are other sets that work just fine as well. 4-piece Noblesse Oblige is a perfectly usable option if you don't already have another Noblesse user in the party, and for those physical ZHONGLI players, 4-piece Pale Flame, Gladiator's Finale, and Echoes of an Offering will all work just fine. ZHONGLI is one of the most flexible characters in terms of team comps, and his universality allows him to be slotted into nearly any team that requires a healer slot. However, do note that while ZHONGLI is a very comfortable pick, he is almost never the best option for damage amplification, with other supports like Bennett, Jean, or Kokomi offering more utility while being healers. Despite this, ZHONGLI is still a very good pick thanks to his thick shield, along with universal resistance shred. Here are some characters he pairs well with. Ganyu. Due to the nature of Ganyu's charge shot gameplay, Ganyu greatly benefits from not having to dodge with ZHONGLI's shield, as dodging often leads to a massive DPS loss while charging her shots. However, as mentioned previously, he may not be the best option if you want raw damage, as Ganyu's best melt team usually consists of Bennett, Xiangling, and Kazuha. Hu Tao. Hu Tao's skill infusion only lasts a short duration, so having ZHONGLI to defend her from getting interrupted while doing her charge attacks is very beneficial. A popular team consists of Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Albedo, and ZHONGLI, with Albedo providing the elemental mastery for vapes and off-field geo damage, while ZHONGLI offers both his shield and pillar resonance with Albedo's solar isotoma for both damage and energy generation. Hu Tao also often likes having low HP, so ZHONGLI's shield preventing her from dropping too dangerously low of an HP, but also not needing a healer slot which negates her low HP gameplay, makes him an extremely good choice in this team comp. Yoimiya and Klee. Both of these pyro DPSs don't like getting interrupted during their attack strings. The last few hits of Yoimiya's normal attack string does the most damage, along with her N5 being able to evade, while Klee is extremely squishy due to her low defense and short range for charge attack spam, making her a huge beneficiary of Zhongli's shield. And finally, we have the Mono Geo party, consisting of Arataki Ito or Ningguang as the main DPS, Zhongli as the shielder, as well as any combination of Goro, Albedo, Yunjin, and Geo Traveler. This team goes all in on the Geo damage, and you should have little to no energy problems due to every party member generating Geo particles. This team will also have good synergy with Zhongli's pillar due to Geo constructs, along with Geo resonance being still as strong as it is. I'd like to stress again that Zhongli is incredibly flexible and fits nearly any team comp. These are just some examples of Zhongli's potential teams, but he can really go with anyone. Explore as you'd like. Zhongli's constellations are all good, but nothing absolutely necessary. He is a great character at Constellation 0, and any further constellations improve him slightly, but not greatly, making him far from a constellation dependent character and fairly free to play friendly. Constellation 1. This gives Zhongli one extra pillar with his tap E and hold E. This helps for off-field passive damage and energy. Overall, a decent, but not that impactful constellation. As I'll discuss it later, this might mess up some reaction-based comps, so this constellation may be a double-edged sword. Constellation 2. This is Zhongli's best constellation. This grants him a Jade Shield when you use his elemental burst, making rotations faster and smoother by allowing you to use your tap E right after, having a lower opportunity cost for Zhongli's field time. This also synergizes well with the C1 and allows you to place 2 pillars down more quickly for off-field damage and particle generation. This constellation also allows for co-op party members to gain a shield after using your burst. Overall for Zhongli pullers, this is a good stopping point for his constellations. Constellation 3 increases his skill talent level, while Constellation 5 increases burst talent levels. Overall, fairly minor constellations to worry about. Constellation 4. This increases his Meteor's AoE and petrification duration by 2 seconds. Zhongli's burst already has fairly wide AoE, so the former isn't really a massive upgrade, but the petrification duration being longer is a nice quality of life upgrade since its base duration of 4 seconds is not particularly long. Constellation 6. This turns Zhongli into both a shielder and a healer. It converts incoming damage into HP and works for any party member who has a Jade Shield on. While this is a very strong constellation, it is not that practical due to Zhongli's shield already being so strong. However, this is useful against certain enemies who can bypass shields, as the hits taken from the Jade Shield do still convert into healing, making this a decent safety net against such enemies. More often than not, this constellation is a quality of life change than anything else. Do note that this constellation does have anti-synergy with both the Staff of Homa as well as Hu Tao as a party member, due to both of these things benefiting from having low HP. Finally, onto some bonus info. For those playing reaction-based comps, do note that Zhongli's pillar can remove elemental gauges due to its 1U geo application. Thus, be sure to remember to angle his pillars away from the enemy in such cases. This can also prevent you from accidentally climbing it, which can happen more times than you'd expect. As mentioned previously, Geo Traveler is an excellent party member due to the burst not counting towards the 3 construct limit, along with their boulders and burst stones resonating with his pillar. This allows for tons of passive damage if Zhongli is built for DPS, and allows both of them to funnel energy for each other. Due to Zhongli's comfortable shield negating the need to know how to dodge and iframe time, he is notorious for making people worse players and heavily relying on his shield. This is very often true. Zhongli's charge attack, while looking very cool, is not actually very good. However, it is pretty handy for escaping the Mirror Maiden's water cage since he teleports out. Zhongli's shield can remove geo gauges from both constructs and shields, making him effective against some enemies like the Geo Lava Troll and Armored Geo Slime. Finally, using his old E also breaks every ore around him, making him the best overworld miner in the game. Finally, we have the Abyss Showcase. This will be my own Zhongli, running a level 80 Favonius Lance to show roughly free-to-play levels of investment.
難攻不落
塵となれ構成
前
師匠の技を食らいなさい
天道ここにあるもみちが血甘く惜しむ風を
震えよ
天理チョーク
落ちて
風の行く先を
構成
天道ここにある風を知れ
や
はっとやし
そこだ稲光すなわち永遠なり
構成塵となれ熱々でしょ
それ俺そこだはっ剣女盤石風の歌雲の行くごと
話が通じないなら叩くも
行こうしいざし岩山八九
かけっこしましょう
前はっそこだ
落ちてふっ
はっ風よはっ行こう
料理の時間だ
霹靂先陣
構成はっ
剣女盤石はっふっせい天道万象
やっへい
難攻不落
生産
それ
震えよ
雲が借りなく時風を天道ここにある風よ
構成
天理チョーク
料理の時間だ塵となれ
無礼者かが
血甘く惜しみ
来戦
全力攻撃
逃げ道はありませんここより弱滅の時よっふっ
Thank you all for watching this video. Hopefully I covered everything you need to know about ZHONGLI. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I wish all ZHONGLI pullers the best of luck. Thank you all once again, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.